Derek, great to talk to you. How are you?
Well, I'm still here, and I've been here since last with Misty. We've been over here really since the World Championship presentations in Paris late last November. It's absolutely amazing. I haven't come back. I mean, COVID hit us, as you know, in March, and really after that, there's nothing. We couldn't come back.
Where in the world is here at the moment?
Well, we're sitting in sunny Florida, where it's a cool 80 degrees today, but it's midwinter. But it's pleasant. It's not humid at all. But it was pretty damn hot about 2 months ago. But it's the strangest thing, everybody says, oh, it's unbearable in Florida. Well, it is if you walk around in it. But, you go from air-conditioned homes to air-conditioned cars, and then on from that to something else.
Mm.
And you're all within reason, you're always in air conditioning. And I don't find it the heat that unbearable. Even at my age, it doesn't seem to bother me at all, apart from when I'm sitting in the cockpit of a race car with a helmet on. Then it seems unbearably hot the whole time.
It's been a crazy year, hasn't it? 2020. Have you managed to go to any events at all, or have you just been completely at home the whole time?
Basically, we've been at home all the time. But there was a Palm Beach, West Palm Beach had a Concours d'Elegance that I was involved with last year with the Löwenbräu Porsche. And this year they had it again 2 weeks ago. And of course, they'd been on to me, we really need to do it, we really want to do it. But of course, when they were considering doing it 3 months ago, getting organized then, of course, it looked like the COVID was gradually dissipating. So they organized it all. But we had a lovely, I say lovely, we had the Longtail, the 1969 Longtail 917, the one that I drove at Valencia testing 3 years ago, and then was due to drive at the Le Mans Classic. But I didn't drive it at Classic because I didn't think it was I didn't really fancy doing 200 miles an hour in a car that likes spinning all the time. And actually they took it to Le Mans, despite my arguments having driven it. They took it to Le Mans. This young lad was driving it and he crashed it on his first lap when it went left, right, and spun, took the wheels off. So, I was right in my assumption. And if you ever, I think I told you the story, I just said, I'm not driving this damn thing. Mm-hmm. I'd driven the Longtail in 1971, and that was a wonderful, wonderful car, the Gulf Longtail. Mm-hmm. And we were doing 246 miles an hour in it. But I was getting out about 160 at Valencia. And then as I backed off, the whole tail would come round and want to come round and steer the front or steer the back where our front didn't want to go. So I decided not to drive it very sensibly. So we had that car rebuilt. It's not my car, obviously. And this gentleman bought the car, and it does look magnificent. But unfortunately, it's not a very nice animal to drive. So we had that. And we also had the car that myself and Andretti and Wallach won the last 24-hour at Daytona, which was my last 24-hour win in 1989. So that was the Miller High Life car. So we had that car as well. So it was good doing comparison between the two. And one had incredible aerodynamics. The other had beautiful aerodynamics, but they didn't work. And the more functional one did. And it was a lovely weekend. The weather was wonderful. It was out on the polo grounds up here in West Palm. And, people were very sensible, and they were all sort of socially distanced. And of course, we were outside and there's a light breeze. So all in all, as far as I know, it was a very safe environment. Yeah.
Before we started recording, you spotted the picture behind me and you started to recognize that.
The 917 era with the Gulf team was 2 years, 70 and 71. And of course, I was lucky enough to go there in 71 when the car was perfected and was just a dream. It was a dream to drive. And I was, immature. I'd only done 2 sports car races in my life, both with Ferrari. And here I was going to drive a 917. And at the time, I don't think I really realized just how lucky I was, or, how amazing it was to get that drive, because there were 4 drivers in the world that got to drive it, and I was one of them. So, but I guess it was right place, right time, and Mr. Y wanted an Englishman. That could be why. And so I remember driving, but the one you've got behind you is of course, the one with the fins on, which was a short tail, but with the high speed, a sort of moderately high speed version. And we used that, to my knowledge, pretty much definitely at Monza, because we needed the high speed, but also we had corners to go around, unlike Le Mans with the massive straight of 4 miles. So we needed a super long tail. And we used that, as I say, the short tail you got there with the fins on, so it had less downforce overall. And we ran that at Monza, and then myself with Van Lennep, Gijs Van Lennep, we won the last race at Paris, called the Montlhéry, Paris 1,000 kilometers in October that year, in 71. And of course, that was the last race the car ever won, literally as a factory team. Mm-hmm. So that was it wasn't actually that car. I just looked out on the wall outside here, and I got a photograph of the actual poster of the race, and we were in actually car number 4. I just saw. So it wasn't that car. That was, I would say, that was almost definitely Monza. And I know at Monza, Pedro won in car number 1, and Joe and Siffert and I came second in car number 2. At least I hope I'm right. Totally. But it does, that car was phenomenal. And when you look back and you see that car was only really around for 2 years, and I mean, only the Gulf car really became really famous. I know, the Pig and the Martini car got infamy at Le Mans with a long tail, but the period that we had of 70 and 71 with the John Wyer team, with the Gulf team, was amazing. So for me to be part of it was very special. And of course, then Steve McQueen in 1970 used those cars, or had the cars that were at Le Mans, which were in fact short tails, because they hadn't built the super good long tail in 70. So of course they ran there, and I was lucky enough to then get involved with the making of the Steve McQueen movie with the Gulf 917. So the first time I ever actually drove one was at Le Mans on the movie. And then of course I had my test drive in September later that year with John Wyer, and somehow got the drive.
Wonderful. And of course, in 2018, you and Richard Heseltine cooperated to put together and produce this fantastic book we were very proud to publish, Derek Bell, All My Porsche Races, almost 200 races, stunning photographs, over 200 photographs, fantastic imagery, and all your memories of every single race. I mean, it's a fascinating book. And indeed, we've reprinted as first edition, sold out, and it's just tremendous. And did you enjoy that experience of going back to remember all those various races?
The most memorable era was the 917, because it is a memory now, and that was just 1971. And it was such an era because of, as I mentioned earlier, it was the beginning of the 917, or the 2 years of the great 917. I think the fact of going 246 miles an hour down Mulsanne Straight when there were no chicanes and that sort of thing made it really very, very memorable. And then just the fact of driving with 2 drivers in the cars at Le Mans and the long distance racing with Pedro in one car and Jackie Oliver and me and Joe Siffert in the other through half the year, because sadly they passed away during the year. But I mean, and then with Richard Atwood and Gijs Van Lennep and others. I mean, it was just amazing, really, when I think about it. But that was the most memorable era, because it was my first era really in sports cars. And I thought it'd be very brief. I thought, like everything, I had Formula 3, Formula 2, a little bit of Formula 1, a little bit of sports cars, and I'd be back on the farm, digging up sugar beet. But in fact, it progressed more than that, and then carried on from 71. Stay with John Wyer with the development of the Mirage, which we came fourth with Hailwood, with Mike in 74 at Le Mans, plus winning other races actually on the way. And then 75 winning with Jackie. And then really the career carried on. But that was the 917 started. I would almost call it the Gulf era. I mean, it was the 917 era to me. And Gulf were the people that really made sure it worked. I don't think after that era, Gulf really gripped it properly and made the most of it. It's like a lot of things. I feel that car manufacturers should look back on their history, because there's no good looking at the future, because there ain't a future. You've got nothing to talk about apart from we had this coming, we got that coming. But when you look at the history of Bentley, and you look at the history of Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin and Ferrari and Jaguar and Porsche, and just keep going on like that, everybody has a history. And that's what eventually they do throw back to it quite frequently in their promotions. And I don't think Gulf used that enough. miraculously, they've had a tremendous amount of publicity out of it because of the Steve McQueen movie. But it almost wasn't because of what Gulf have been doing over the years. Now they're starting to come back a bit and doing a little bit more in racing. But it seems they're a bit fragmented in their promotional work. But I'm delighted to see they're back because, of course, I was part of that early memory. But really, the best period of my career was obviously with the 956 and 962. I mean, that Porsche period, really, which is mainly in that book, was amazing. To work with Norbert Singer and Jackie Ickx, Jochen Mass, and Stefan Belloff and Hans Stuck and all the guys, and Al Holbert on both sides of the Atlantic was immense. Because I mean, I drove the best car in the world in the World Championship and the best car in the United States with Al Holbert and the Löwenbräu Porsche. So I was incredibly lucky to be in that period at that time.
Absolutely fantastic. Talking of golf and what a charismatic color scheme it is, we did a book recently on the Rothko collection, all the golf sponsored cars. And I think probably the last time we met was at the opening of the museum, which was an amazing evening. That's a collection.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that evening very much. You just can't believe how many cars have Gulf colors on it, and pretty genuinely too. And they've always been there. And I suppose it goes against my argument that Gulf didn't do enough with it. But it's almost like they kept their colors there, and they did. If you remember, whichever year it was, 94, when they veered off, and I drove that British car with Robin Donovan. And it was a British Gulf, and it was in dark blue with orange. It was actually a very, very pretty looking car, the open cockpit Spider 956, really.
Yes.
It was a lovely looking car, I must admit. But, they have always been there, I'll admit, but I always felt they're a bit half-hearted about their promotion.
Well, coming back to the present, or indeed the future, any plans for next year yet?
Well, they're coming. I mean, this year was absolutely nothing. I did one event 2 weeks ago. It was the Palm Beach Concours d'Elegance. But yes, we've got lots happening for next year, which is great because a lot of people that wanted me for this year we're in now, of course, said, okay, hold on, these are on hold until the pandemic's over, but we'll do this on the same dates next year. So, of course, I missed both the Goodwoods and, of course, the Speed Week that you went to, and I would have come to if it wasn't for the fact it was sitting on a plane for 11 hours each way. With the COVID thing. And then, of course, I had other events lined up during the year, and which gradually started to come back in. Porsche have several events they wanted me to be involved with during this year, so they'll now be next year because they didn't actually do that promotion this year. And also I've got the Concours and Speed Week type events that they do at Manicourt, and they do down in central France, in various places. And so, it's all coming together. It's really fun. And suddenly you're looking next year and you're opening up your calendar and going, right, and writing it down with great gusto, just hoping and praying we could still do it.
Absolutely.
But I think somehow, we will get to do these events. By then people have worked out how we can do them safely. And, the worst thing to me is getting around the world. That's the problem. But I think when I come back to England, hopefully sort of as soon after Easter as I can, then I hope by then we'll be able to, it's down to sunny Sussex. I hope that, we'll be able to do it in a more sensible way, and maybe vaccinations will be happy to do that. And it's the way to go forward, because it's not going to solve the problem. It's going to make it a lot easier for everybody, I think.
Indeed. Well, Derek, you're looking extremely fit, and very much look forward to seeing you again in 2021, hopefully at Goodwood, each of the Goodwoods and a few other events. It's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and we look forward to keeping in touch and doing this again soon, please.
Thanks, Philip. Happy Christmas and a really successful 2021.